So, hello everyone and welcome back to the Promotion on a Budget podcast, back with another club by club. It's been a few weeks, we've all been busy, and the Championship has also been very busy, with one club in particular rising up the table, and that is Barnsley, the underdogs this season that seem to have sneaked in the playoffs out of nowhere under the helm. Under the helm? Yeah, that is the right phrase of word, isn't it, Josh?
Well, I wouldn't say under the helm. I'd say under the control.
Under the control.
Or having Valerian Ismail at the helm is what you want.
That's what I was meant to say. My excuse is I'm Dutch. My English is awful, but that's a lie considering English is my first language. But enough about me.
It's a bogus excuse.
Exactly. We'll head into Barnsley, who have been incredible, Josh. Incredible. And have shocked the whole.
I don't think there's a word to describe how good they've been.
They've just shocked everyone, and I think it's just left everyone speechless.
Hang on. I wouldn't say they've shocked everyone, because if we drop a clip here, who predicted them to get the playoffs at the end of the season a few months ago? That was me.
Right. I'll add that clip in. Because remember you saying that.
6th place. I'm going to go for the dark horse. I'm going to put Barnsley in 6th.
But still, I mean, we look at the start of the season. Barnsley managed to stay up miraculously. And this season... Exactly. And, this season, they were favourites to go down. And they've just shocked the whole of the Championship. Valerian Ismail has got this new brand of football that's been so potent for them, and they just look a different side. And he's bringing out the best of mediocre Championship players on paper, and making them quality Championship players.
I mean, there's some really good kind of generic things about Barnsley that I've clocked so far this season, and I'll read them to you now. You look at how they've performed. So they've played Chelsea, a Premier League team, twice this season, in 2 different competitions, the EFL Cup and the FA Cup. In the EFL Cup, they lost 6-0 at Stamford Bridge back in September. Fast forward to January, they actually played in February, my bad. That is completely my mistake. Fast forward to February, when they met with Barnsley hosting that game at Oakwell. Chelsea won 1-0. And I watched that game. Barnsley were, in my eyes, phenomenal. They pose such a threat to Chelsea. And you've got to look at the fact they've not lost a game in the league in just over 2 months now.
Yeah, they have been ridiculous. And I can remember we played Barnsley, I think, twice in the space of 3-4 weeks. Once in the league and once in the cup. In the league, they impressed me. They came to Carrow Road, and they were one of the only sides this season so far at Carrow Road to have really come at Norwich, really put some pressure on that back line. Unfortunately, they didn't score for them, and they didn't really break through. But you could see there was a pathway there for Valerian Ismail to work with, and he's got a clear philosophy on how to bring this Barnsley side from a relegation fodder to Championship playoff contenders. And it's scary to say that Barnsley, playoff contenders is ridiculous. And an interesting fact is Valerian Ismail did his coaching badges with Daniel Farke. So no wonder, he's storming the Championship just like his mate Daniel Farke, I guess.
Imagine my shock that you found a stat to link everything back round to Norwich. Imagine my shock. But look, let's come away from talking about Barnsley as a whole, because realistically, they've got some very good quality. And I think there's one player in particular that I'll highlight in terms of a signing they bought in the January window, but I'll come on to him in a second. You've got Corley Woodrow, who is their top goal scorer and is up there also with 4 assists. The guy has got 10 goals so far this season, which is no like, you can't take away any player who's getting double digits. There's a lot of respect for him there. And then you kind of look a bit further down, and there's a name that I'm really quite familiar with because he's a very class player, Alex Mower.
Yeah, definitely.
He has been, on statistics alone, has probably been one of their highlight standout players this season. You've got to look at the fact that the guy is playing in midfield. He is their second top goal scorer with 7, and also has 7 assists. The guy is pulling out mental stats for a midfielder.
Yeah, I think Alex Mower has always, he's had seasons in the Championship where he has impressed, and then he's had seasons where he's not impressed. He's very much an in and out sort of player in the Championship, but he possesses that quality. And this season, he's really coming into his own, I think, under the management of Ismail, who I will sing his praises all season long because I have the utmost respect for him as a manager. Has brought the best out of Alex Mower, and another player for me, which just burst onto the scene in the Championship. And personally, I didn't hear of him before the season. Is Callum Styles, who quite frankly,
you can't ignore what the guy's achieved so far.
He's a modern day sort of wing back, isn't he? He loves to get forward. He contributes with goals. Defensively, he's excellent. His work rate is just phenomenal. So yeah, Callum Styles will be a play for me to. He's really is a contender for, in that team of the season for the Championships.
Oh yeah, I mean it really is incredible. I mean, I'm kind of going back down to looking at Barnsley's run at the start of the season. They lost their first 2 games, then they drew, then they lost. Their first win didn't come until the end of October, from the season starting in the middle of September. They went a month and a half of the season, picking up 4 points. They were down at the bottom, as most people expected them to be, considering they stayed in the league on a technicality. And the fact, and I know you're going to pick up on this, the fact I'm linking it to Reading, it's just really ironic that it is. Their second game of the season, they lost 2-0 at the Medeski Stadium, finished the game with 9 men. The 2 players they had sent off in that game, Heelick and Joel Anderson, I'm just checking that I have pronounced that correctly and said that all perfectly. Those 2 of the standout players in their defence, were both sent off in that game as they lost 2-0 away from home early on in the season, after losing to Luton in the first game, who again people thought were going to be down there and kind of scrapping. Reading were one of the favourites to be down there as well. They were initially 2 huge games that you looked at it, and then they've drawn with Coventry. So their first 3 games against 3 teams that were all tipped to be down there with them, to pick up 1 point, it wasn't a great start. But my word, how it has changed. And I have got to put some of their turning tides down to their January business. And the one standout signing that I think they've made, Daryl Dyke.
Now I'm going to tell you another January signing that has also really made an impact. They scored 4 goals since signing in January. And that is ex-Norwich youth striker Carlton Morris. Of course, I had to link Norwich back in.
He's on 5 goals, by the way.
5 goals, see, my mistake. The stats lied to me. 5 goals as well. And I've watched Carlton Morris ever since he was at the under-18s at Norwich. Never really broke into the first team. Didn't look like the business. I mean, we tried to style him on Grant Holt back in the day, and he didn't really flourish for him at Norwich. Obviously, went to MK Dons for the first half of this season. Even did okay, and then Barnsley out of nowhere signed him, and they brought out the best in him, and he looks the real deal. And going forward now, Barnsley seem to have so much more of a threat and look so much more dangerous.
Yeah, it's really phenomenal to see how, I mean, like you've obviously just highlighted there with Carlton Morris. If you look at, again, obviously kind of touching on a player who is, it's an interesting one because obviously he is only there on loan due to the kind of turns and twists and everything with the MLS. But Daryl Dyke, a 20-year-old has come in to the Championship, having only ever played in America. And the guy has played 9 games, starting 6. He's got 3 goals. And I don't know if you've seen one of his goals very recently. I believe it was their goal in their game against Birmingham, where he's absolutely rifled it in the top corner. And that is literally it was the defining goal in that game, if I'm not mistaken, assisted by Carlton Morris. And I think he, along with players like Carlton Morris, and then even if you go and look at, okay, not necessarily a January signing, someone of the quality of Herbie Kane, he's come through the Liverpool Academy, which, as we've seen how much talent that's created. We've seen some of the individual sparks that Barnsley have had, and it's really nice to see it all come together. I mean, everyone loves an underdog story at the end of the day, and Barnsley fans will be absolutely revelling at the chance that they may get to see their team compete in the Championship playoff.
I think Barnsley really are the ultimate underdog story. I think you look at these players, they are all coming to Barnsley with a point to prove. Obviously, you talk about Herbie Kane coming from Liverpool's academy. He wants to prove his point that, he is a good player. He's come through their academy. He is as highly rated as what he should be. And, Carlton Morris coming for a point to prove that maybe Norwich shouldn't have let him go, but that he is the real deal. So many players in that side that just have points to prove, and that that are underdogs themselves in this division, making up Barnsley as the ultimate underdog in general. And they've been fantastic this season, Josh, definitely. But shall we have a look at their last 6 games?
Yeah, and I think it's very fair to say, out of all of the teams we've discussed so far, they've probably got on paper the easiest running.
They are facing Norwich, mate.
Yeah, but that's practically it. Because if we look from 6th to obviously the final game against Norwich, they face Middlesbrough at home, Coventry away, Huddersfield away, Rotherham at home, Preston away, and then Norwich at home.
All I'm going to say is, Josh, they are only 8 points off automatics. Now, I know this is I'm a very optimistic believer in things, but I've just got so much respect for Barnsley this season. I want to see them in the Premier League. With their running looking a lot more favourable than the other clubs that we've spoke about, dare to believe, maybe?
If I was a Barnsley fan, I definitely would. And this is the thing. We've spoken about all of the big teams above them. Okay, big being kind of the top 4. And how they've all got to play each other. Obviously, Reading, who sit level with them as it stands on points in 5th place, they've got a few of the teams above them to play and have proven time and time again that they are shaky and can lose points where they really shouldn't drop points. You look at the fact they've dropped points to Wickham recently, they dropped points to Nottingham Forest at the weekend. If you catch my drift, and actually, you know what? We don't normally do this on Club by Club, but let's go and look at the rest of their fixtures for the season. The ones that we haven't mentioned, we have to go down to, they've got Luton away, they've got Reading at home. That's a massive game for both sides.
That's huge.
Their next game, they host they go away to Wickham, but after that, they then host Sheffield Wednesday. Honestly, that is probably one of the easiest run-ins that we will see for a team that is up near the top and fighting. They literally, in terms of teams above them, they've got to play 2. In terms of teams around them, if you take out Reading and Norwich, the closest club to them in league standings is then Middlesbrough, who, if you look at the table now, are 8 points behind them.
It's ridiculous.
If I'm a Barnsley fan, I'm looking up. There is no looking down now for Barnsley, only up. They're right on the tail of Reading. And actually, if you take out, if you're ignoring games in hand and whatnot, they're 5 points behind 4th place Brentford. 4th place Brentford, who got to the playoff final last year. What?
Yeah, it is quite fascinating. And I think what would be just so bizarre but beautiful at the same time would be to see Barnsley in the sorry, a bit of a tongue twister there, in the Premier League. I think such a club with such a season that they've had. It reminds me of Fulham a few seasons back when they went up for the playoffs. They were languishing mid-table around halfway through the season, and suddenly went on a massive run. And Barnsley are doing almost the same. And full credit to them. And I'd personally love to see Barnsley up in the Premier League. I think it'd be really fascinating to see how they get on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I mean, I don't normally say that about a team that's around where my boys are, but honestly, I'd love to see Barnsley in the Premier League. I think it would be so good for the club. It would honestly, I'll tell you what would be really interesting if they did sneak second place, because I think obviously, it's quite apparent that Norwich are probably a bit too far out of their reach, let alone Watford's reach. Looking at the table, imagine a playoff campaign between Watford, Swansea, Brentford, and Reading.
It's big.
That could be
and
meaty.
you've got Bournemouth maybe getting in there. And this season, I think we do underestimate. They've had a hit and miss season, but still they do have quality. And I think this season as a whole in the Championship just proves how much quality there is, but also how much inconsistency there is, because we're seeing teams like Barnsley, don't get me wrong, on paper, they're mid-table fodder at best. Obviously, football isn't played on paper, and thank God for that. Otherwise, we'll be having a very, very boring conversation. But you're seeing teams like Barnsley shoot up into the playoffs. There is going to be slips and turns still to come in the final 10 games in this top six. But yeah, it's definitely very intriguing how Barnsley will get on. But I believe that is the end of the video, Josh. Anything, unless you want to add anything?
No, honestly, mate, it'll be very interesting to see how this unfolds. And in all honesty, if we do have any Barnsley fans watching, do feel free to get in touch, because we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to interact with you, because I know both of us, like we said, are big admirers of an underdog story. And I think it is very fair to say Barnsley are taking an underdog spot in this season, and it could be a phenomenal end to the season. There's 10 games left from this point. Who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah, imagine if Barnsley go on and win the league now. Cool.
that shuts you right up. I'd love it. I'd love it if that happened. I'd absolutely love it.
God's sake. But anyway, guys, if you have enjoyed this video, remember to like, subscribe, and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any more of our content. Also, go drop a comment on how you think Barnsley will get on in the final 10 games. Where do you think they will finish? Although it's final 10 games as we're recording, but this video may not be out until there's 9 games left. So, maybe a bit delayed. However, also go follow our socials. And thank you, Josh, for joining me tonight. And we shall see you guys next time.